pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Body count, lead off. Bring in, let's lead off. Off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.
What is up, everybody? Good morning, space fans, or good afternoon or evening, depending on where around the world you are. But right now, in Cape Canaveral, Florida, it is early in the morning, 3:47 a.m. to be precise, and we are waiting, 4:47 a.m. to be precise, and we are waiting for the launch of Lucy on an Atlas 401 rocket. And we're going to tell you all about this amazing mission. I'm going to be hosting for tonight. Let me get a 5x5 in chat, and I see chat is giving me those. Thank you, chat. And I'm joined tonight by none other than NASA Spaceflight's Assistant Managing Editor, Chris Gebhardt. What's up, Chris?
Hey, Jack. Well, I am up. And man, there is no other place I would rather be right now. What a mission this is. And I'm sure people have a lot of questions, and we'll deep dive into what this flight is going to be. But good morning, everyone, and welcome to the start of a 12-year mission for Lucy.
Yeah, no kidding. 12 years. This is going to be an absolutely historic and amazing mission that will just keep delivering on science for years to come. So it's really, really special that we get to see it launch this morning. So like you guys just heard Chris say, we have a question and answer component of our live streams. If you don't know, if you're just joining us for the first time, feel free to @NASASpaceflight in chat. That way we can see your question, and we will be happy to answer as many as we possibly can ahead of this vehicle launching into space. So let's see, I will make sure my software there that we're using for this is all set up. But yeah, we're sitting here just under an hour, right, Chris, from launch?
We are indeed. The opening of the launch window is at 5:34 a.m. local time, which is 9:34 UTC. And the launch window stretches for just over an hour. Actually, it stretches until 6:49, exactly 2 hours from right now. So it is a bit of a window, which is in some part due to what is known as RAN steering, the right ascension of the ascending node, which is a big fancy way of basically saying that the Atlas can adjust for plane differentials in terms of the plane that it's trying to put the spacecraft in versus the plane of the launch pad. So that gives them a little more time on either side of what might be the actual window if you were on another rocket, because Atlas does have some good steering capability as it ascends into its initial parking orbit. So we do have a bit of a window here today. Hopefully we won't need that whole window. At last check, everything was progressing relatively smoothly with the Atlas, and there was no reason as of last check as to why we wouldn't hit the opening of our window. But we do have a window just in case today.
Got it. And that RAN steering that you're talking about, I know ULA kind of touts that ability of Atlas a lot. Refresh my memory, is that a feature of Delta as well, or is that just an Atlas thing? Oh, did we lose you? Sounds like we might have lost Chris, but he'll be back here shortly, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you now.
Oh yeah, I don't know what I don't know what tipped you off on that. I heard you perfectly. Actually for that whole question. Yeah, so in terms of RAN steering, this is something that the Centaur is really good at. I'm looking over at Thomas for the other part of that question. The Delta cryogenic second stage doesn't have the RAN steering ability that the Atlas does. It's mainly an Atlas functionality with the performance leftover capabilities of the Centaur and everything from my understanding of it.
Very cool. Yeah, no, today I learned something. Thank you for that. But we will answer some of chat's questions here if you're down, Chris.
Gotcha. Yes, that works, Jack. And to be fair to the last part to that answer, checking with Thomas here really quick. It is a software thing. It does come down to the ultimate performance of the vehicle, though. So technically, could others do it? Probably, but Atlas is the one we always hear about.
Got it. Cool. Today I learned. Let's see. Go ahead, please.
Oh no, sorry. Nope. You're good.
Okay. Let's see. Stephanie Ball says, "Is this Atlas V's last flight?" No, this is actually not even close to Atlas V's last flight. But this was the Atlas that was originally slated to launch Starliner on the OFT-2 mission, right?
It was. So when we look at the rocket today, during some different shots that we'll show, the gold booster down at the bottom is the Atlas that we refer to. That is what is actually the Atlas portion of this vehicle. The white upper stage is known as the Centaur. So that Atlas booster, that gold part of the rocket, is the booster, as you were saying, Jack, that was originally assigned to the OFT-2 mission back in July. The Centaur upper stage, which is the reason I mentioned the delineation between the two, the Centaur is not the same Centaur, though, that would have launched OFT-2. So for the crew flights with Starliner on board, they use a dual-engine Centaur configuration, whereas every other mission of the Atlas to date uses a single-engine Centaur configuration, which is what we're using here today as well. So the Centaurs swapped around, but the Atlas booster itself is the same. And that was actually a bit of a change. Originally, the boosters were sort of earmarked, the boosters that would be for crew flights were sort of earmarked for them, and they really didn't have a lot of wiggle room. But they were able to change the design process for all of the Atlas boosters. So all of the Atlas boosters are now the same, just like the Falcon 9s are the same. So it doesn't really matter which first stage you launch on for a Starliner mission anymore for Atlas.
Makes sense. And I know we'll get some questions about it in chat, but I'm seeing it on my screen here. That fire on the right side of the screen is a flare stack. That is a flare stack. We know all about flare stacks here at NASASpaceflight. That is a hydrogen flare stack, though, right, Chris? Not a methane flare stack?
That is the hydrogen flare stack, yes. So the Atlas, so the Centaur portion of the rocket utilizes liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. So they have to have a way to burn off the hydrogen that boils off safely. And that is the brief, every once in a while, you can sort of see a flame on the right-hand side, and that is that flare stack. So if you see it sort of whoosh out every once in a while, yeah, that's normally okay. It happens every once in a while. We like to see it.
Copy that. Yeah, it's like it's saying hello.
Exactly.
Really quickly, I'll do some super chats that have come in early on here. Thank you so much, everybody, for the support. We've got some very frequent names here popping up. Musical Wolves, thank you for the support. They say, let's launch this diamond. And we've got Moldy.
Oh, that's not what it's named after, but we'll get to that.
Yeah, actually, you're gonna have to drop some knowledge on me there. Moldy Space Industries, thank you for the support. They say Thomas Fan Club. Thomas is out there. I think he had a little bit of technical difficulties, but Thomas is out there as well, alongside Chris. Is he alongside you, Chris, or is he just out shooting?
He is. He's right here.
Hi, everybody.
There we go. That's just for Moldy Space Industries. Thomas Fan Club. Very cool. Thank you for the support, Moldy Space. Musical Wolves again, saying, is this a mission shuttle could have been capable of? That's a Chris question if I've ever heard one.
I mean, in terms of launching, the shuttles launched interplanetary probes to Jupiter and to Venus, and to the Sun in heliocentric orbits. It certainly could have. The second stage it would have had to have used. Oh God, there was this idea to put a Centaur upper stage in the payload bay of the shuttle.
They nixed that after Challenger, right?
Oh gosh, yeah, many reasons why that was not a good idea. Yeah, that actually would have been the flight. That would actually would have been the flight. 2 flights after Challenger. Would have been one of the shuttle Centaur flights. Yeah, that didn't really work out. So those interplanetary probes ended up using solid propellant kick stages in the IUS, the inertial upper stage. So could it have? Yes, not as efficiently as this, but yes, it could have.
Very cool. Good question, Musical Wolves. We always love a good shuttle question. Magic Skates, thank you for the support. Graham Edwards, thank you for the support. They say, what is the pointy thing in the middle of the launch towers? That is a rocket. I like the inversion of the common 4 towers question, which of course Nova asks, and those 4 towers around the rocket are lightning suppression system towers. We don't like lightning hitting field rockets. That's a bad thing. And Florida has a lot of lightning. But I already know you know the answer to that, Nova. Um, let's see. Saturn Man, thank you for the support. They say thanks for letting us take part in this historic mission. And Philip Moyer says for the launch coffee fund. Hi team. Thank you for the support, Philip. And thank you for the support, everybody. Also, hey members, thank you for all of your support. I hope you're enjoying the new emoji, and there are more new emoji coming. So if you want those chat emoji, become a member, and we can do a Tory Heavy, just like I'm about to do right now in chat. Bam. All right.
I like that.
The Tory Heavy's like that's going way back in NASA spaceflight live stream lore. So Tory Heavy's
is.
always a good one. Let's see.
Uh,
Here's a kind of a broad question for you,
yeah.
Chris. Nebula X is asking, what are they aiming for in this mission? I mean, we could say literally
Yeah.
they're aiming for a bunch of asteroids, right? But what's the goal of the Lucy mission here by studying these asteroids? And you can get as granular on that as you want, or you can zoom out as far as you want. But I think this is a good question to start off the next round of them.
Well, we're going to zoom in really granular on this because both Hagen and I had the wonderful opportunity to sit with the principal investigator of this mission for about an hour a couple of weeks ago, and it was amazing to just hear his thoughts on everything that this mission is going to do. So it's going to do a lot. So let's sort of back up first and let's talk about its name, because its name actually really encapsulates what it's going to do. So I mentioned a few minutes ago when someone said, let's get this diamond into the sky. And I said, that's not what it's named after, because there's a song, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and asteroids, diamonds in the sky. I totally see where people are going with that, but that's not what it was named after. It is actually named after the Lucy fossil that was found in Africa. That's one of the earliest known links of modern humanity, right back in the fossil record of how we evolved. That's what Lucy is actually named after, because that's what Lucy's mission is actually seeking to do. So we are sending Lucy to 7 asteroids, 1 main belt asteroid, 4 in the L4 Lagrange point that precedes Jupiter in its orbit, and 2 in the L5 location, the Lagrange point 5 location, which trails Jupiter in its orbit. This trajectory mandates a 12-year mission to visit all of them. And the reason we're going to the Trojan asteroids, those are what the asteroids that are trapped in Jupiter's L4 and L5 Lagrange points. We'll get to a Lagrange point in a minute. And these asteroids have been trapped there for millions, if not billions of years. Some of them are actual fossil records of the creation of the solar system. They stopped accreting very shortly after the solar system began forming. There are these primordial rocks that are left over from our beginnings, and we've never gone to them before. And Lucy can really do a good job of helping us unlock the mystery of not just what these asteroids are made out of, but also that helps tell us where they came from in the solar system, because the grayer asteroids form closer to the sun. The redder asteroids are not stable because of the ices that are needed to form the red material on their surfaces. That can't happen closer than 20 AU to the sun, but somehow these asteroids are trapped. These red asteroids are trapped in Jupiter's Lagrange points and Jupiter's 5 AU from the sun. So they absolutely didn't form there. So this is going to really help us understand in those early moments of the solar system and in the early years of the solar system, how did the solar system form? How did the major planets, the 4 gas giants, when they migrated out to their current locations from where they actually formed, they all actually formed closer to the sun than where they are now. How did that destabilize the rest of the solar system? Is that what we see in the geologic record in the inner solar system of the late heavy bombardment? Is that in part because of how the major planets migrated, and the asteroids that are trapped in these Lagrange points around Jupiter in the L4 and L5 locations can help us answer that question and really help us understand how the solar system came to be. So for that reason, it's named after the Lucy fossil that helped us understand where humanity came from in our record. So it's an immensely exciting mission, and the trajectory to do this only exists for this 21-day period this year and a 21-day period almost exactly 1 year from now. It
Wow.
doesn't exist after that. So
Wow.
if Lucy doesn't launch by this time next year, you can't do the mission. Like, that's how unique the trajectory is. That's how just lucky they got. And when you talk to Dr. Levison, Dr. Hal Levison, the principal investigator, he will make no bones about that luck. I mean, it was literally luck. And how much luck is, I think, very clearly shown in the final target that they're going to. So there's only one thing that we're going to in the L5 Lagrange point location. Then that is at the end of the mission in 2033. And that object that we're going to is the odds of this are insane. It's a binary, an equal mass binary, and they are almost convinced that this is one of the cold classical Kuiper belt objects from the early formation of the solar system that somehow maintained its status as a binary, got trapped in Jupiter's L5 location. So it hasn't continued to evolve since then. So it's this little, they're the two tiny little time capsules. And they're two asteroids. They're called Patroclus and Minutius. They're binary, so technically one. So technically it's just Patroclus if you're talking about the entire system. But how insane it is that we can even go there is that Patroclus does not orbit on the ecliptic plane of the solar system, where Lucy will actually orbit. So if you think about it, the ecliptic plane is sort of like the solar system's equator, right? So the farther off you are on that equator, the higher your inclination is.
Yep.
But Lucy's trying to get right on that ecliptic. And Patroclus just so happens to be crossing the ecliptic of the solar system when Lucy will intercept it.
Wow.
That's how lucky this is. So,
It's
yeah.
a crazy interstellar pool shot, right? Like it's absolutely wild, the trajectory that they've figured out for this thing.
It is. It absolutely is. It requires, and it requires 3 Earth gravity assists. So it will swing back by Earth 1 year from now for the first one. Yeah, I mean, it's insane. It's insane.
We're getting some different views now from the NASA feed, and that was a really cool shot of the fairing. And now we're back looking at the vehicle on the pad. You can see the flare stack there on the right side, and we are currently in a planned 30-minute built-in hold, and everything is still on track. I am seeing per our back channel, so everything's still going great. If you all are just joining us, I'm Jack Beyer. I'm hosting tonight's little webcast here, and Chris G is out in the field. Chris Gebhardt, Assistant Managing Editor of NASASpaceflight. So we are sitting here eagerly awaiting the launch of the Lucy Trojan asteroid hunting spacecraft atop an Atlas V. So if you have questions at NASASpaceflight, we can answer your questions, and I will answer some right now. Let's see. Benny19 is asking, is there a chance of seeing a jellyfish? And if you don't know, jellyfish is what some people call that effect when you get a launch close to sunrise or sunset, and you get sort of the sun backlighting the exhaust from the rocket. You get a really cool lighting effect in the sky. Is there any chance of that today, Chris?
So I wouldn't hold my breath for the jellyfish today. If we launch at the opening of the window, we're launching about 2 hours prior to sunrise. Jellyfishes are usually, man, to the
Closer to
atlases.
sunrise or sunset, right? Like 30 minutes or
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, like in the 30-minute to an hour-ish. Like maybe if it were like an hour and 10, an hour and 20, I wouldn't hold my breath for it. Wouldn't hold my breath, no.
Yeah, so basically probably no jellyfish unless we eat into that 2-hour window that we were talking about earlier.
Exactly. Yeah.
Very cool. Good question, Benny. I mean, it's a really cool thing to see with your own 2 eyes when it does happen.
It really is, yeah.
Let's see, Futurism Memes, which I would like to subscribe to, I think, is asking, what exactly is Lucy going to be doing at the asteroids? Flying by and performing what science exactly? I know it's using its high gain antenna to sort of measure the mass of them, right? With like a Doppler shift kind of thing. And it's got some other instruments on there. What kind of science are we going to try and do on these asteroids, Chris?
Yeah. So exactly what you just said. They're trying to determine the mass and the mass distribution properties of each of the asteroids, which will help infer what they are made of. There are other instruments on board that are going to be looking both surface and subsurface, a series of cameras as well as spectrometers that are going to be trying to determine the composition of these asteroids, which again really helps us understand where they formed, which is all part of Lucy's mission. There aren't a lot of scientific experiments on board, and a lot of them are actually pulled, are derivatives from other missions. So a lot of the instruments that the New Horizons spacecraft had when it flew by Pluto and Charon in 2015, and then 2014 MU-69 on New Year's Day a couple years ago, it's utilizing a lot of the same technology on that one because it is flying by, right? The tricky part with this mission, we can't slow down enough to enter orbit or station keep with these asteroids, even in the Lagrange points, which make maneuvering in Lagrange points is a lot easier than maneuvering elsewhere. But even with that, we can't slow down. It's all about physics in that. So we've got to just fly by them. So for that reason, they're not actually going to hibernate Lucy in between the encounters in the L4 location. And in fact, at no point in its mission will Lucy hibernate, because it's going to be constantly looking at that space in the asteroid belt, the main belt. Then as it swings through the Lagrange points, comes back to Earth and goes back out, it's just going to keep collecting science and data. So it's going to be looking for it's going to be looking for a wide range of things, but primarily at these asteroids, their composition, the mass distribution of them, their coloring, the coloring of the craters within them, and the spectroscopy that they can do of the surface and immediate subsurface conditions. And conditions is not the right word. Composition. There we go.
Very cool. And chat is practically shrieking that the Lucy fossil was named after the song. So yeah, I just wanted to relay that on behalf of chat, Chris. I feel like you probably already knew that.
Yes. Yes.
Let's see. Let's see some more questions. Oh, did you want to talk about Lagrange points? I think you mentioned we're going to get more into that earlier, and I don't know that we have yet, and I don't see a pertinent question, but you know what? I want to know.
Yeah, okay, because Lagrange points are these things, and my goodness, are we going to hear about Lagrange points in the next 2 months? Because not only is Lucy going to 2 of them,
James Webb.
Yes, that's where James Webb is going as well. So basically, when you take 2 bodies in the solar system that are part of a system, so you can take the Earth and the Moon, for example, or you can take the Sun and the Earth, right? Or the Sun and Jupiter in this case, right? So there are 5 locations in that orbital system where the gravitational interactions of the bodies themselves make it so that you get these very gravitationally stable pockets of space. And there are 5 in each of these 2 body systems, L1 through L5. L4 and L5 locations are co-orbital with the big body. So the L4 location precedes a planet by about 60 degrees in its orbit, and the L5 location follows it by about 60 degrees. There are also points then directly opposite the sun from that body, and then and there are others too. But what we're really focused on right now are those L4 and L5 points ahead of and behind Jupiter, because that's where it traps the asteroids. So that's why Lucy is specifically going to only those 2 and not the other 3 that Jupiter and the sun have with each other, because the asteroids get trapped here. So that's why we're going to those locations. And basically, these very gravitationally stable pockets of space make it very easy to maneuver a spacecraft through there. It doesn't have to use as much propellant to maneuver between different targets. And basically, if you put an object in a Lagrange point, it stays there until it's acted upon by another force. So once these asteroids and these objects get trapped in Lagrange points, they don't escape them. It's not like you can get into a gravitational situation where you could get flung out of them or things like that. So they're very, very stable. Spacecraft don't have to use as much propellant, and this makes them a great place to target for the Lucy mission, because Lucy has to be small as possible to get to her destination in any semblance of time that's usable. And likewise for the James Webb Space Telescope, which is going to one of the Earth-Sun Lagrange points, it massively reduces the amount of propellant that telescope needs in order to perform its particular mission. and gives it a very stable platform from which to do that science. So Lagrange points are great when you can get spacecraft there. And yeah, they're really great in terms of overall efficiency of propellant usage for our missions. And they trap things, which is very nice.
Yeah, and in my head, I kind of imagine them. We've all seen the science demo of gravity, right? Where you put a large mass on like a sheet or a trampoline, and it distorts the plane, and you can see the gravity well, sort of thing. And if you picture of a Lagrange point as sort of teetering right on the rim of that gravity well, so that it's not really falling in, but it's not really rolling away.
Yeah,
It's a really cool phenomenon of I guess physics in our
yeah.
solar system. But it's awesome that we're taking advantage of it in this sense with Lucy to be able to study these foundational building blocks, we think, of our solar system.
Oh yeah, oh yeah, and what's great is when you talk to the scientists about what do they expect to find in these locations, right? A question I always love to ask is like, what's the thing that would blow your mind? Like if we get there and we see something and it's like, whoa, what is that? I mean, it was sort of like how geologically active Pluto was a shock to
Yep.
everyone when we finally got there, right? And the answer to this one was actually it came down to those red and gray asteroids because the red asteroids should only be red skin deep. So we should see gray craters on red asteroids. Now, if we see red craters on red asteroids, or even more bizarre, red craters on gray asteroids, then as Dr. Levinson said, we have no idea what the heck is going on out there.
I'm tempted to make a gray lumps with red sauce or red lumps with gray sauce reference.
Right.
Okay, let's see. I'm going to do some more super chats real quick. I'll let you catch your breath there, Chris. Thank you for the super insightful commentary. Magic Skates, thank you for the support. They said, sorry, I thought it was funny. That's probably about their previous super chat. Musical Wolves, thank you for the further support. They say, is Lucy home? I'm missing the reference there. Let's see. CCAT.
I don't get the reference. Yeah, sorry.
Sorry to disappoint you, Musical Wolves. CCAT, thanks for the new membership. You came in at Capcom level. That gives you Discord access. It might take a little bit to propagate. I think it shows up there in YouTube for you, but yeah, pop into Discord. I'll do the classic Forrest Gump waving gif at you, and you can check out all the interesting channels we've got there. Thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Wheelie98, thank you for the support. They say deep space exploration requires patience. No kidding. I mean, you said what, Chris? The final stop for Lucy, unless the mission is extended or what have you, is 2033. So yeah, this will be a long one. This will be a long haul ride.
Yeah, it's a 12-year mission total. There are 2 Earth gravity assists that are required to get Lucy to the first of the Lagrange point locations. So she actually doesn't begin flying by the target asteroids until 2027 and 2028 in the first Lagrange point. Yep.
So it takes 2 Earth assists before it heads out, right? Then that third Earth assist is for the L5 points later on.
Yes, exactly that. Yep. So she'll swing by twice, and that will change the aphelion or the farthest point in the orbit to throw that out to Jupiter's orbital distance, because that's what you're trying to aim for. You're aiming for Jupiter's orbit, but just at a place where Jupiter won't be when you get there, because you want to get to the L4 location first. And then that orbit is at that point is basically just a circular orbit of the sun, where the aphelion or farthest point is at Jupiter's orbital distance, and the perihelion or closest point is at Earth's orbital distance. And that way, Lucy is just on a very stable orbit, and we use the third Earth gravity assist to tweak the orbit just enough so that I can get by Patroclus.
Gosh, I love physics.
Yeah.
Except for when it comes to the speed of light. Let's see. Jerwa, thank you for the support there, buddy. We always appreciate seeing your name pop up. And they say, only because we're going way back in NSF lore, here's a few bucks for the microwave bacon seminar. Don't make bacon in the microwave. Let's see. Kylie Williams, that's all I'm going to say. Kylie Williams, thank you for the support there. They say, great to watch another history-making space event with you all, NSF team. Thank you so much, Kylie. Morphloaf or Morphof? Oh, Morph Olaf. I'm apparently I can't read. Thank you for the support, bud. Here's a good question. Why are they called Trojan asteroids? Has something to do with Jupiter?
Um, yeah, okay, so they're the Trojan asteroids in the L4 location. So the swarms are called the two swarms are called the Greek camp and the Trojan camp. So the Greek camp of Trojans we're going through are the L4 locations, and then the Trojan camp is in the L5, but they're all sort of called Trojans in general. I believe they're called Trojans because of the fact like because of the Trojan horse, like because they might not be what they appear to be. I have not seen anything else that would indicate any other reason why they are called why they are named Trojans.
By convention, they are each named from Greek mythology after a figure of the Trojan War. That's
Right.
all I got. That's all I've got.
Yep. So Trojan horse, Trojan war. Yep. There we go. Yep.
Specifically refers to asteroids co-orbital with Jupiter. Cool.
Yep. Yep. So that would be it, because they're not what they appear to be. They're asteroids, but they might be more than that. Right. They might harbor secrets of the solar system.
Fascinating. Rachel, thank you for the support. No message for me to riff on, but I still appreciate the support. I know we all do. Thank you so much, Rachel. Jonathan says, great coverage as usual. Why do they use built-in holds instead of just extending the countdown? This is a question I would love to know the answer to. Do you know the answer to this, Chris? What's with the built-in holds?
Yeah, so built-in holds. So we get spoiled by the Falcon 9s and Falcon Heavy fleets, which don't use holds. So we get very used to the fact of there not being any. But I need to point out that in terms of American rockets, well, it's actually what the Atlas does by holding. That's the more common thing if you look at it from what the rockets do. So there are two ways to do a countdown. One, you just time your countdown perfectly to the moment that you want to lift off. You don't have any built-in holds, so if any issue does come up, you have to stop, right? And you're not going to make the opening of that window. If you make your countdown like ULA does, where you've got a couple of built-in holds as you approach the opening of your window, it gives your teams time to either work issues that pop up and still make the opening of your window. It also just sometimes you get behind in a launch count. And it's not because you've done anything wrong. It's just X number of things end up taking a few minutes longer than they should have on the day. And if you don't have built-in holds, suddenly you could be in a situation where rocket's fine, payload's fine, you've just literally run out of time because a couple of things took longer. Whereas with ULA, they have built-in holds, so you have some wiggle room in there. You can troubleshoot, you can get a little behind in your timeline and still make that up in the built-in hold, so that in ULA's case, when they're ready to release this hold, right now we're holding at T-minus 4 minutes. When they release that hold, they are 4 minutes away from launch, and they have a really good shot of making the opening of the window. One way is not necessarily better than the other. We have seen really, really efficient systems be able, like the Falcons, be able to utilize no hold countdowns and launch reliably on instantaneous single-second launch windows. So there's no right or wrong way to do a count. Those are just the two ways that you can opt to do it.
It makes sense, even though it kind of slightly makes me want to grind my teeth. It's like T-minus 13 should be T-minus not 13, not T-minus 4. But I'll get off my soapbox. You're right. It makes sense. It enables them to hit the opening of the window by having a little bit of catch-up time here and there. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
J. David, thank you for the support, becoming a new member, coming in at PadRat membership. I believe you get chat emoji. I think that's what PadRats get. They get the emoji. In fact, I'm going to throw another Tory Heavy in chat because I love Tory Heavy. That's 3 Tories in a row. And if you want those emoji, that's all it is. It's very simple. But if you want that chat emoji, become a member, and we are adding new emoji constantly. Well, maybe not constantly, but we aim to start adding new emoji constantly. We've added some lately, and we'll add more. And that's always fun, so you can spice up your live chat there. John Simons, thank you for the support. They say, what's the capacity of Lagrange points? The capacity of Lagrange points. And I'm seeing that as I ask that, Chris has dropped off the call. I don't know that there's any set capacity to them. Chris, did you hear that before you dropped? Are you back?
I did not. I totally dropped.
John is asking, what is the capacity of Lagrange points? Do they have a set capacity? I mean, imagine we're dealing with the balancing of gravity wells between a sun and Jupiter. I suspect the mass of those two objects means that the capacity of those points is fairly infinite for sake of conversation. Would you disagree, or is there any knowledge that I'm missing here?
No, I wouldn't disagree with that. So I mean, there is a theoretical capacity, but just with the way sort of like celestial mechanics works, how big these two objects are, exactly what you were saying, and actually how sparsely populated they are. There is, but like we're not. None of the Lagrange points that exist in the solar system are close to that. And in fact, a lot of Lagrange points don't capture things. Like we know Jupiter and Saturn have a lot of asteroids in their Lagrange system. We found some in Neptune and Uranus's. We found a couple in Mars and Earth's, but we haven't really found a lot or any yet with Mercury and Venus. So, we sometimes they have them, sometimes they don't. It all just sort of comes down to how they capture the objects, how the objects move through them. But in terms of a theoretical limit, I mean, there would be because there's just a certain amount of space, ha 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 ha, in the Lagrange point. I didn't intend to do that, but once I
You,
went
you,
there, I had
you
to.
still got me. You got me
Yeah.
good.
But yeah, I see where you're going with that question. I think in practicality, your answer is no. The answer is no. In reality, yes. Or in terms of technicality, yes. But reality, no.
Very cool. Fantastic answer. Thank you for that. Sodium X, thanks for becoming a pad rat. Thank you to all of our members once again. Andreas Peterson, thank you for becoming a Capcom member. Again, if you're a Capcom and above, you get Discord access. Red Team and above gets the chat emoji and preview videos, and pad rats get the chat emoji. What are you going to say, Chris?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say I want to pause really quick on reading some things just because we are at launch minus 10 minutes. So they are at T minus 4 minutes. We're actually to the clock about 10 minutes away from liftoff. So I just briefly want to go over what we're going to see in the final 10 minutes to prep people. So
Please.
around the L minus 7 mark is when we will have the go no go poll for liftoff, which we will be quiet and we will play that for you so you can listen to that. After that, the countdown will pick up at the T minus 4 minute and counting mark, at which point you'll hear a slew of calls as the Atlas tanks and Centaur tanks pressurize for flight, as fueling systems are closed out and inerted for liftoff. Around 30 seconds prior to liftoff, we will have the final status check, which is what you always want to hear for a ULA with this vehicle, is go Atlas, go Centaur, and in this case, go Lucy, is what you want to hear about a half a minute to 20 seconds prior to liftoff. The RD-180 engine at the base of the Atlas V will ignite at about the T minus 2.5 second mark. It will take about 3.5 minutes though to 3.5 seconds though to ramp up to full thrust. So liftoff of the Atlas actually occurs about 1.7 seconds after T0, after the countdown reaches 0 is when Atlas will lift off. There are no solid rocket motors on this, so it will be a very slow ascent off of the launch pad. For the Atlas 401, the center booster will burn for about 4 minutes before shutting down and separating and handing off to the Centaur upper stage. The Centaur will then haul Lucy into a planned Earth parking orbit. And then about 45 minutes after liftoff, Centaur will ignite again to do its trans injection burn to get Lucy into the heliocentric or orbit of the sun trajectory that it needs to be in. And spacecraft separation occurs just under 1 hour after liftoff. After that, Lucy will deploy her solar panels, get power positive, and make first contact back with Earth through some of our ground tracking stations, where teams will begin to assess the health of the spacecraft and get it ready for the first few weeks of its mission. But that, in a sort of a nutshell, is what we can expect here today. And I know that someone out there is sort of genuinely going to ask this question, so it's worth saying. There is no part of the Atlas V that is reusable. So all parts of the vehicle are expended for this mission.
Very cool. I'm so excited to see this thing launch. We are now at L minus 7 minutes and 30 seconds.
So
and Chris, if at any point you need to do your thing in order to prep for launch, just say the word and I will happily flap my gums and cover for you.
That works, except that duty falls to Thomas today.
Oh,
So yeah.
excellent. All pressure on Thomas. I mean, he's king of the track, so I think we'll be fine. We'll be in good hands.
Exactly.
Two more
Exactly.
super chats to wrap up here before we move on to some more questions ahead of that go no go poll you mentioned, Chris. KC Med C says, Lucille Ball, guys. Lucy, I'm home is what Ricky used to say. Oh, okay. That's the reference we missed earlier.
Oh yes.
I'm disappointed in myself. Let's put
Status
it
check.
up. You know
Proceed
what?
with terminal count. Atlas systems. Propulsion. Go. Hydraulics. Go. Pneumatics. Go. LO2. Go. Water. Go. Centaur systems. Propulsion. Go. Pneumatics. Go. LO2. Go. LH2. Go. Hazgas. Go. Electrical systems airborne. Go. Ground. Go. Facility. Go. RFFTS. Go. Flight control. Go. GCQ. Go. Operations support. Go. COM. Go. Umbilicals. Go. ECS. Go. Red line monitor. Go. Quality. Go. Ops safety manager. Go. ULA safety officer. Go. Vehicle system engineer. Go. Anomaly chief. Go. Range coordinator.
Clear to proceed.
Launch director.
You have permission to launch.
Proceeding with the count. ALC. Verify T0 is set for 0934 Zulu.
Verified.
And well, that is just what we want to hear, isn't it, Jack? All stations rapidly polling go for launch, a happy Atlas and payload on the launch pad. And at this point, we are 5.5 minutes away from the launch of Lucy to start her 12-year mission to the Trojan asteroids.
That would be a minute and 30 seconds ahead of the count resuming at T-4, correct?
Yes, indeed.
Very cool. And if a go no go poll early in the morning does not get your blood pumping, I don't know why you are watching the stream, because that is just always so awesome to hear. It's the classic Hollywood scene of every movie that ever has a rocket launch, and it's because it's an important moment in launch. And we
It
just
is.
heard that successful go poll for this launch of Lucy. My heart's racing. I can't even talk straight. I will try and remain coherent.
It
Let's
is,
see.
and ULA is going to be very talky in this last 4 minutes of the countdown, giving us updates. But yeah, it's going to be good.
Okay, I'm happy to shut up as soon as ULA pipes up again. Really quickly, here's one really good question, and it's a super chat. Thank you so much, Sodium X, for the support. They say, will I be able to see the launch from Okeechobee, Florida?
You actually might be able to. Night launch of the Atlases go up much higher. They climb a lot steeper than other vehicles at first because of the low thrust to weight ratio and just that the booster has to impart so much momentum to the second stage that it really is really high. If it is clear, which it's mostly clear here, there is a slight layering of blanket of clouds that's kind of transparent to our south. If it's clear, you should be able to see it from South Florida. Yes.
Very cool. Yeah, we always get questions on visibility for these launches. Like, for example, we have Thomas here asking, what is the flight path? Is it going north or south? Sorry if you just said that.
Yeah, so Lucy is basically going, basically she's going east out of here. Is basically the trajectory that this vehicle will follow today.
Very cool. Let's see.
And we have released the hold. We are just under 3.5 minutes and counting to the launch of Lucy.
What a beautiful spacecraft. What a historic mission. Chris, how are you feeling? We talk a lot about the technical stuff. Really quickly, how are you feeling today? This is history about to happen.
It is. These are the missions that really excite me. Like these interplanetary science missions that are just going to help us understand how the solar system formed, understand our place in it, and like Lucy is trying to figure out that final major puzzle piece, because this is literally the last place to answer the question that we haven't been to yet. So
Yep.
this is awesome. This is incredible, and I honestly can't wait to see how the data that Lucy gets is going to be used and compared with the data that New Horizons is getting out in the Kuiper Belt and the
Absolutely.
objects that it's flown by. That's going to be incredible. And who doesn't like to hear the groan of the RD-180 engine as it ignites? I mean, It is an engine that literally sounds like it is heaving itself off the launch pad. It is so cool to hear. Yeah.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I think the launch that has bowled me over in terms of sound the most to this day is a launch out of Vandenberg, and it was an Atlas. And I don't know whether it was the weather conditions or what, or the clouds, but yeah, for whatever reason, Atlas is the most impressive sounding rocket I think I've heard to date.
It is.
But yeah,
Well,
like you said, I'm glad you brought up New Horizons, because this is sort of a foundational mission, right? This is the kind of thing where it's like, this feels like landing a probe on Mars. This feels like sending
it does.
a probe to Pluto, or even like a Hubble type scale. Like
Yeah.
the level of importance of the science that this mission is going to return cannot be overstated. And with that, we are about 1 minute and 30 seconds from launch. I am anticipating ULA piping up a little bit more. You can see that flare stack on the right going. That is nominal. That's just fine. It's doing its thing. And we are approaching T-minus 1 minute. Get your Tory heavies ready in chat, everybody.
Yep. So that's what I was just going to say is I need to move because I am going to be near the ambient audio. So hang on.
Yep. Do your thing. Really quickly, Stephen Shoup, thank you for becoming a Reb Team member. Enjoy the chat emoji and the preview videos. Josh Riddenhoff, thank you so much for that generous support. And they say, NSF Cake Day. Pleasure tuning in late night rocket radio. Enjoy the show. May your when sleep mugs be full. Thank you so much, Josh. And thank you to everybody who has supported the stream. Thank you to all of our new members. Thank you to all of our current members. T-minus 30 seconds away from launch of the Lucy spacecraft to the Trojan asteroids at Jupiter's L4 and L5 points. My heart is racing. T-minus 10. Looks like good ignition. And liftoff.
Go, Lucy, go!
Go,
Lucy!
Lucy, go.
Well, wow. Like a diamond rising into the sky. Atlas is absolutely gorgeous tonight. Taking Lucy out. So far, so good.
Wow, look
Thomas
at that track from
epic
Thomas.
Track.
Yes, excellent. You know, I might be remiss in saying this, but rocket launches are cool.
I know the VAB did an amazing sound that it has never done for an Atlas either. It's like the
2 minutes remain in the Atlas boost.
Sorry, I thought I heard the update there and stopped talking. But yeah, Atlas just flying straight and true down the range track here, heading out east from its launch site. Thomas just doing an absolutely epic job tracking this. Hopefully it will not be behind the cloud at staging. There's one cloud.
There's always one.
There's always one, and it might be behind that at staging, but yeah, the Atlas just doing an epic job as always here in the final few seconds of the boost phase of flight on the actual Atlas proper. Um, and what I love about how the Atlas separates is so the RD-180 engine will shut down, and then solid rocket separation motors will actually fire to pull the booster away from the Centaur upper stage at separation, and then a few seconds later, we'll have pre-start and then ignition of the RL-10 engine on that Centaur upper stage.
Very
And
cool.
it will be behind the cloud during staging, of course.
It happens. You know what? I'm sure Thomas will maintain his like miraculous track and be able to recover as soon as it pops out on the other side of the cloud, even if it's a little speck of light. But is what it is. 3 minutes and 40 seconds after launch.
So we are approaching staging at this point.
Very, very cool.
Definitely have lost it in the clouds. Yeah. Ah.
Oh wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's insane
The
looking.
NASA
Way to go,
feed.
Thomas.
Wow. No, I think that's the NASA feed.
Okay, right. I see the NASA bug at the top right.
Yeah.
I'm dumb.
Wow, look at that.
That is beautiful.
Atlas still just going straight and true downrange.
And that would be staging?
That would be staging.
I had no idea the Atlas had solid SEP motors on it. How
Yep,
did I not
there they
know
go.
that?
Woo!
That's wild.
All right, and that would be pre-start, or should be pre-start. And full ignition of the RL-10.
And next up would be fairing SEP?
Next up is fairing SEP. That is correct. There they go.
Excellent.
Just there. And yeah, live telemetry, velocity increases, all looking good. So it looks like we have a good start on the RL-10 engine there. You can see that little correction that the live telemetry did there as the Atlas, as the upper stage of the Centaur there, calculates with its closed loop guidance system where it is, where it needs to be, and adjusts that pitch and everything accordingly to attain the proper positioning at Centaur engine cutoff here, which will be many, many minutes from now, because boy, does it take a long time for the Centaur to haul something into orbit. It's yeah, it's a good 11-minute burn. So
it's a casual 11-minute rocket burn. Don't worry about it.
Exactly. Do we have any other questions that have come in that we might be able to take while we are in the Centaur phase of ascent here?
Yeah, Frem is asking, how long will it take to reach the asteroids? You said 2027, right, Chris?
Yeah, so the first asteroid flybys are in 2027 and 2028 in the Lagrange points, and then the mission culminates with the L5 flyby in 12 years from now. So yeah.
And Super Fun Alex is asking, is the vehicle going to get any samples?
No. So there is no sample return element to this particular mission. Lucy is just flying by all of the asteroids that she will be visiting, all 7 of them, which will set a record. It is the spacecraft in the mission that is actually set to study the most number of objects as part of the primary mission.
Musical Wolves is asking about solar panel deploy. The solar panels on this are kind of unique and gigantic, right?
They are 7.2 meter diameter payload diameter solar arrays. So multiply that by 3.3 to get what that is roughly in feet. But yeah, 7.2 diameter solar arrays here. They are huge, and they have to be huge because Jupiter's distance, that 5 AU mark from the sun, with 1 AU being the average distance of Earth's orbit to the sun, are 149 million kilometers. That 5 AU mark out where Jupiter is really where solar technology, that's its limit. So these arrays have to be huge in order to generate the needed power that Lucy will require as she flies through the L4 and L5 Lagrange points, because we're not putting her into hibernation mode in between the encounters. So she has to have enough power for the entirety of the mission. And in order to do that, those solar panels have to be massively large, because the amount of the amount of light that's hitting them from the sun at that point is significantly diminished from what they will initially receive when they are deployed here shortly after the launch phase of flight is complete.
And it's wild to me, like you said earlier, they're not going to be sleeping the spacecraft as it flies. Is that I wonder, is that normal? Have they done that sort of procedure before with the spacecraft in terms of not putting it to sleep or hibernation?
Yeah. So a few have not hibernated before, as they've cruised through the interplanetary medium, because some of their missions have been designed to, study the interplanetary medium, to study what's actually in the asteroid belt and everything like that. So yeah, a few of them have not hibernated. And I know your question, Jack, is more toward the long haul ones where it takes multiple years to get to their destination. You are right. We normally hibernate, but Lucy won't. And yeah, it joins a list of others that haven't as well.
Very cool. Let's see some more questions. Jared is asking, Lagrange points are like the geostationary orbits for multi-body systems. Is that an okay analogy?
Yeah, because they stay there. They stay in one they stay in one position relative to the parent body. And I mean, that is sort of what geostationary orbits do, in relation to the ground. So yeah, you could that's an interesting way to think about it. Uh, yeah, that's an interesting way to think about it. In the same way that the satellite in geostationary orbit would maintain its relative position over the planet that it's around. Yeah, Lagrange points, they just stay there in relation to the planet, even though they don't orbit the planet.
Here's one from Rocket Science asking, will the Centaur push Lucy into the encounter with the Trojans, or does Lucy have some sort of ion or other engine? It's going to
Ah,
detach from Centaur relatively soon, right, Chris?
yeah. So Centaur will send it into the initial trajectory that will bring it back to Earth in a year. And then it has an engine. It has a chemical engine on board. It's not an ion engine. It's a chemical engine. So it does have an engine. In fact, half of the launch mass of Lucy is roughly 1.5 metric tons. Half of that is propellant inside of the spacecraft for various trajectory corrections and maneuvers that it might have to do. So it will use a mixture of both its engine for course correction, but it will actually be the two Earth gravity assists a year from now and then in 2024 that will fling the spacecraft's actual trajectory out to the orbital distance of Jupiter. So we'll actually use the Earth's gravity to progressively shift the orbit farther out over after two encounters with Earth. But its chemical engine will be used for the minor course corrections that it needs throughout the mission and to change its inclination, which it will have to do because all of these asteroids are not at the same inclination relative to the ecliptic plane or the equator, so to speak, of the solar system. So it will have to use its engine for some things, but mainly we try to use the Earth's gravity to save propellant for the big pushes out to Jupiter.
Very cool. Here's one we talked about a little bit earlier. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to add to that, because I know a lot of people there's probably some questions out there too about like, well, wait a minute, if we need two Earth gravity assists just to get it out to Jupiter's orbit, an Atlas launched the Juno mission to Jupiter and it used solid rocket boosters. Why can't we just throw some more solid rocket boosters on there and use the Atlas to get it into this trajectory as that? And it actually comes down to the speed and the velocity, because everything's about velocity when you travel in space. And you need to be going fast enough to get into the right trajectory. And remember, this trajectory is incredibly unique. It only existed for 21 days this year and 21 days next year. And then it's done. And you don't get that trajectory ever again. So it was all about managing that. And you can't, for some of these flyby missions, You can't just keep adding solid rocket boosters to get it there quicker, because you need it to actually be going because you need it to be going slow enough so that the orbit just arcs through the L4 location and the L5 locations, but doesn't go past them. Because if you go past them, then you're not on the right trajectory. And you go past them by going faster. So this is all about managing the trajectory to get it to fly by all of these 7 objects. And for that, you can't just slap more solid rocket boosters on and send it directly there. You actually have to do the gravity assists because of that lower velocity that will change the trajectory to get you there.
Yeah, as much as we wish real life was like Kerbal, adding more solid rocket boosters does not always translate to a more successful outcome.
Right. Right.
Oh man. Let's see a couple more questions as we wrap up, and we're coming up on. Are we about to do a SEP, or are we about to just do a coast phase here?
Nope. So that should be coast phase. If the engine is shut down, that should be coast phase. Yeah, actually, you can see that. Look at that. A perigee of 166 and an apogee of 306. So we are in the initial parking orbit at a 28.4 degree inclination. So we are in the initial parking orbit. So coast phase now for several more minutes. Centaur reignites. Okay. Centaur reignites to then push Lucy into the heliocentric orbit of the sun that she needs to be in order to re-encounter Earth in a year. And then we'll have separation. I believe I saw on the timeline separation is roughly 56 minutes after liftoff.
Copy that. Well, what an amazing and historic launch. Thank you, everybody, for joining us on this one. Let me look for a couple more questions before we let you pack it up there, Chris. But thank you for the excellent commentary as I look.
This is a mission that I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time. And the fact that we're one more burn and a SEP away, and Lucy is on its way. What an incredible mission this is going to be. And two, let's just, I just want to stop for a second and say, like, Lucy is doing this, and in the last few years, we've also launched the Perseverance and Ingenuity missions to Mars. We have launched the Parker Solar Probe and the Solar Orbiter missions to study the sun. Like, the science programs are doing really, really well. They don't get the love that they really deserve from everyone, but the science programs are doing incredible things that we've never been able to do before with our technology, right? Like the Parker Solar Probe, we had to wait 60 years for the technology to do it. And now we can. And Lucy, like this, with its, I can't stress it enough, the trajectory that only exists for 2 years. And we got it.
And Scott Manley in chat, hello, Scott, was saying that window repeats every 20 years or so, which is something I didn't know.
Oh, that's very interesting. Okay, that is interesting, because I know, and speaking with Dr. Levison, he said it didn't exist again after 2 years. So I don't know if he meant like the specific asteroids they want to go to. Maybe what Scott is saying is like the trajectory comes around, but the targets don't. That's interesting. That's fascinating. I have a question for him now later this afternoon. Ha ha ha.
Yeah, I was going to plug NASASpaceflight Live. That is tomorrow, right? And that is going to be you and Scott Manley having a chat.
Technically today, in about about 10 hours.
Oh, time. So yeah, that'll be a really fun thing to look out for. And if you guys want to dive into that further, I'm sure it'll come up when you two talk later today on NASASpaceflight Live. Be sure to tune in for that. And if you don't already sub to the channel, sub to the channel. Hit the like button. Do all the YouTube things so you don't miss any of our coverage. But that's going to be a barnstorming NSF Live. I'm looking forward to that. Let's see here. Really quick. High Desert Garden, thank you for the support. What else do we have? I mean, I think that's about it. Any final thoughts, Chris, before we wrap up here?
Yeah. I think a couple of things here when the spacecraft comes off the top of the Centaur here after the second burn. Couple things just to bear in mind. Sometimes when we are activating systems on spacecrafts after launch, it's not the precise time that we're thinking, right? Like solar array deployment and that moment when it pings back home that yes, I'm here, I'm good, I survived launch, right? Just, if things are a couple minutes off, no reason to panic. Sometimes the timing of things as the automatic sequence gets going is just late. So don't panic if we don't hear from Lucy for a little bit. Just things like that. As they start commissioning it in space, there might be wobbles, there might be this. Hopefully not. Hopefully everything is perfect, but just don't panic as they start going through the startup phase if something doesn't happen exactly when they say, or if it's a few hours before they confirm X, Y, or Z. Sometimes that's pretty normal when spacecraft come off of the stages like this and start deploying their antennas and arrays and everything. So I think that's the first big thing. And also just get excited for this, because once Lucy's power positive and is talking back to us, this is a mission for the history books. And man, if you were excited about Pluto and New Horizons, like, this mission should excite you just as much for that.
Yeah, I specifically wanted to be on this webcast because I am so excited for this mission. I love the sort of base level science that we are getting to do on our solar system and just answer some of the burning questions that we have. And I think with that little bit of excitement to wrap up the morning, what a launch. Thank you everybody for joining us today. Thank you, Chris G., Assistant Managing Editor of NASASpaceflight, for being out there in the field. I know Thomas was out there with the tracking camera.
Thomas did Julia was out there. Job with the track today.
Steven's out there. So we should have some cool photos coming in on the NASA Spaceflight side from the whole entire team, and really just fantastic work, everybody out there tonight. Chris G., thank you so much for the excellent commentary. And here I am running through the names so fast that Michael can't even display them fast enough. But there's Steven's info.
Well, and Jack, thank you too. Thank you too for hosting. You said it exactly right. Such an exciting mission, and it's always great when a mission like this just launches first day, top of the hour, no issues, just bang right off the pad.
Yep, like butter, just making it look easy, making rocket science look easy. Cool. Well, I think that does it for today's stream. Like I said, like and subscribe to the channel. Like the video, subscribe. That way you won't miss any Starbase updates or any of our live streams. And thank you everybody for watching. Thank you for all the super chats and all the support. And thank you to all of our members. Thank you so much. All right, everybody. Have a great night. Go Lucy.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
Chamber pressure looks good.
Doubling up. Roger roll, Atlantic.
Water towers can fly! Yes!
Tango Delta nominal.
Body down, speed off. Bring in, speed off.
Yikes. You bet. Concur. We don't need any more of these.